Elite Sports is our partner for all things squaring around merch side. If you want something that's got our faces, our smiling faces, or just our logo on it, hey, hit up elitesports.com/square. Use code square at checkout, help out the show. They also got a huge range of athletes to pick from. Elite Sports/star. Check them all out. Ashton Hawkins is on there. Malik Hornsby's on there. Support the team any way you can, right? That's what we talk about on here. So, yeah.
It's up, baby. Exactly. Got to support the athletes, got to support Elite Sports, and it helps support us. Thank you.
Tired of winning the tailgate, but losing the games? We can't help that. But we can tell you what the hell is up with each team and what's going on across sunny San Marcos. Texas State fans, get on your feet. You're listening to Squaring Around with Jakob Rodriguez and Andrew Zimmel.
Andrew, I started this podcast off pretty much apologizing to Steve Holeman, that we hadn't got to him sooner, because I don't think any of it, if you look at my content calendar, that I was like, Andrew, this is what we should be hitting, A, B, C, as we go through the year. It was like volleyball and soccer. We got to talk to them early, and then we can kind of preview their season like we did everybody else. And then football happened. What? I don't think anybody expected that. So it kind of pushed us back a little bit.
And it was tough because they had a couple games that were out of town. Volleyball the same way. They had a couple of tournaments out of town. It was just we couldn't get the schedules going. And then all of a sudden you end up in the back burner. So now we're circling back around.
Conference tourney time. Yeah.
We all agree. Most important time of the year.
It's the most
important time of the year.
Important time of the year. And I feel like they're on
That's the
really...
second week in a row you made that joke.
Really? And I just think it's such a weird, accordion season for them, not because they've shortened it at all, but because it's literally go from I guess the middle of the summer, July, they start playing some exhibition games and stuff, and then all the way till now, this is the end of it. And then I think October 30th is when they play in the conference tournament. They're playing a home game this Thursday, which hopefully this podcast will be out by then.
You'll be out by then. I trust you. I trust the editing, the magic that you'll whiz. Look, no, you're talking about an accordion season. Volleyball doesn't get a ton of time off. And I know soccer, we'll talk about. The whole podcast is about soccer. But I want to point out, volleyball gets 3 months off. And then they're back in the gym, which is insane to me. As somebody who hasn't been in the gym in 6 years. So I'll say this. The Holeman interview, really good stuff. Is one of those coaches who might fly under the radar, because the sport is played in the fall and it's on the other side of campus. So I think a lot of people might go to a volleyball game or a Texas State football game when they live in San Marcos, but on the other side of campus, you don't go over there a lot. I remember going to a ton of those games, when Kat was the head coach over there. So
whenever football was mad at you, they'd be like, you know what, Andrew, take a week off, go cover soccer.
Pretty much, no kidding. I think my first interviews were with volleyball, but I remember my first game play-by-play was during a soccer game. And I didn't do a ton of it. I was a color commentator, and that sport, not a lot of time to talk. It's a lot of back and forth.
Are you sure? I think there's a lot of time to fill. You kick a ball from one side of the field to the other.
As a color commentator, there wasn't a ton because there's not a lot of stoppage. It's just boom, 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 boom. Time going back and forth.
You're getting fisted the whole time, like Chick and Pat Riley,
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I think another thing, too, I feel like soccer and football and football fans do not really overlap because, like you're saying, like one side's of one campus, the other side's another campus. I think football and volleyball have a lot of the same carryover fans. And then, it's a little bit different.
Would you say that that's a gender thing?
No, I think it's what you grow up watching, I'm going
to disagree with you here.
You're going to go out on a limb here?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and disagree with you and say I think that the Texas State football fan and the Texas State soccer fan, that there is a significant overlap between those two fan bases because it is a Hispanic serving institution.
Okay.
I think that is a big part of that. I think there's a lot of football fans that are also soccer fans at Texas State.
All right.
Do you disagree?
No.
I would say that
I'm not really standing on business one way or the other,
I think the gender overlap is important too, because I think volleyball fans who support the women's side of just athletics are going to support the soccer team as well. So I think that if you're doing the Venn diagrams, I think that I don't know which side would be bigger. I think the soccer football one maybe be a little bit bigger, but either way, I'm going on a limb here and saying We have a very diverse campus.
That was almost like a little bit of a lasso take. Like I got you in and I kind of pulled you along, little doggy.
I'm gonna say that because Texas State is such a diverse campus, I'm going with the football fan and soccer fan. There's a large overlap.
Okay, that's fair. Anyway, here's Steve Holeman.
Here's the interview.
What's up, everybody? It's been a while since we did an episode like this. This is Square Talks, where we talk to everybody across the athletics department, talk about what's cooking at Texas State. This week, we're super glad to be joined by Steve Holeman, Texas State's second ever women's soccer coach. Very cool. Lamar legend, Wake Forest legend. What else? I feel like you've been like all over the SEC. You're helping build teams and stuff. Me and Andrew were just like looking at your resume, basically, in your bio. What's that been like? And I guess, like, how do you compare like the very beginning of your career to like now?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. And I'm definitely not a legend, but I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been great. It's been a long career. I'm fortunate to be in this business for as long as I have. Started as a player at Wake Forest, and I was fortunate to land a job at Auburn University. I was in grad school. I was actually working on my PhD when I was hired as the interim head coach back many years ago, and parlayed that into a job as the head coach at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, for 15 years. Went from Ole Miss to University of Georgia, so spent a lot of time in the SEC, 5 years at Georgia, and then got closer to my family, all in Houston, Katy area. So I went to Lamar University for the past 6 years before coming to Texas State. And as you said, this is my second year at Texas State. So here I am.
So I guess going through that, like being a young head coach, because you said you were a GA that became an interim, becomes the head coach. Like, how old were you at that time? You're like 20 something?
Well, when I was named the head coach at Auburn University, I was 25 years old. At the time, I was the youngest D1 head coach in the country. So quite a unique situation there.
Might be the youngest head coach in any sport ever over at Auburn, right? Like, because 25, I'm 26. I couldn't imagine running a program at this age. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was right place at the right time. They were starting a program, and I was there working on my doctorate. So they hired me, and it shaped my entire career.
Did you feel ready for it?
I did, probably because I didn't know any better. Yeah, I would say so. I felt pretty confident in my background from a soccer standpoint. Probably didn't realize, I was stepping into such a big role at such a major university and obviously a very big conference. So looking back on it, it's, I can just say I was fortunate and blessed to be in that situation.
So you were there until 2009. I want to ask you, do you know Summer Ragsdale? Because she was a high school coach that I had in Texas, and she's at Ole Miss now. And I was like, hey, that's just kind of strange. Does that name mean anything to you or not? I don't. Ragsdale?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not coach her, but I know the name because, after I left Ole Miss and, of course, stayed in the SEC, I followed. I mean, we played against Ole Miss when I was at Georgia, and then I still followed the SEC women's soccer.
I was looking at that because we're going through your resume line by line here, and I was like, hold on a second, let's see if we got 6 degrees of separation. So we do. That's like one of those little cool things.
Like,
so
2 degrees.
That's like a 2 or 3 on the Kevin Bacon scale, I think.
Yeah, it is.
What's the difference between building a program from, like, when you talk about building it from scratch, building it from the ground up, and then coming into a situation like Texas State where there is an established program, being the second ever coach in the program, but like coming in after a success? I mean, it's not like you're building something from scratch at Texas State. What's the difference, or the biggest difference?
Well, I think the main difference is you're taking over a team and you're introduced to new players who are used to one style of play. They're used to, a different coach. They're used to a team culture, whether good or bad. That's probably a little different. And you have to come in and you instill your own philosophy and ideas, and you hope they buy into what you're trying to do. And then you want to make it your own. And in the long run, it eventually becomes your own through the process of developing the players that are currently on the roster and bringing in new players that kind of fit the mold of what you're trying to accomplish.
what were any roads like humps did you have to like face? Was there a lot of pushback? Was there like the players being like, yeah, okay, we'll take into the culture that you have?
Well, I think they really bought in very quickly to what we had to offer. The first thing when I came in the spring of 22, and they were training at 6 a.m, and I immediately switched that to the afternoon. So I became pretty popular very quickly. So that was an easy thing. They really liked that concept and idea. And but that's just one small thing. You know, we work a lot on team culture and team building, and there's a little bit of separation between classes when I got here and some adversity like you would see in any program. So we spent a lot of time nurturing that, and we were able to still bring in a handful of players even for the fall of 22 that I think immediately stepped in and helped us right away. So it's been a process. We're certainly not there yet. You know, we have more recruiting classes to come, but we were left with a good core group of quality players and people. So it's been fun.
I'll tell you, the best way to win kids over is a Pizza Pie Friday, man. To change the training schedule. And look, I think that's a really good way to, kind of ingratiate yourself into the program. Good idea. I imagine that wasn't something that are you a morning person? Maybe not.
I'm not a morning person. My preference isn't to get up at 5 a.m, but I'm not opposed to it either. Just probably it was more so about the idea that in order to get a good quality night's sleep, let's just call it 7 or 8 hours. If you're getting up at 5 a.m, your college kids, let's face it, they're not going to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it just kind of throws your day out of whack a little bit. So I think from a physiological standpoint, it's why we made the adjustment. And plus at the time it was like really, really cold in the morning. Summer be a little bit different, or early fall, like we've had this last year. But along with that, we hit the ground running, and we established a culture of hard work. And it wasn't like super enjoyable, I think, from that standpoint, because, we put them to the test. And so it wasn't all, balloons and roses and fun and games. It was, a lot of hard work, but, the ones that bought into it really benefited from it.
Really cool. Yeah, you talked a little bit about the culture too. Last week we had on the president of the Loud Crowd football building this. They have to build this whole atmosphere, right? They've never had anything like
sure.
this.
Yeah.
But you've had like Boco's Army, which is nuts. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that in person. The drums get active. That whole like west side of campus just comes alive. It's pretty cool to see. Like, what's that atmosphere been like, or getting to see it for, I guess, like now for your second year?
Sure, it's been phenomenal, and the Tim and Elizabeth Arnell, who kind of help run that and organize that, just tremendous people, and they create an electric environment, like you said, with the drums and the chants, and after we score, the smoke, and it just makes for a really fun-filled environment, and kind of helps draw a crowd. And it's always fun to play in front of a noisy, rowdy crowd.
I always thought that the Texas State soccer team got really good attendance, really good like fans, versus the other sports that maybe somebody would think should be getting those. So when we were there, Texas State football didn't really draw a crowd. Some of the basketball games didn't really draw a crowd. But every time I went to a soccer game, it felt like it was pretty electric. And then either that just being the parents, but even the fans on that side of campus, like from living in those dorms on that side, it always seemed like there was a good energy at the stadium.
Yeah, I think that helps. Yeah, the location certainly helps, because you just have people that are probably walking by, may not even been aware there was a soccer game, and think, hey, let's stop in, especially on a Thursday night under the lights. A lot of atmosphere, and so it's been great to have that crowd, and we hope to continue to get more and build on that.
My first soccer game I actually saw, I was on my way. I worked at the rec like through college pretty much, so it was right there. So I was on my way from the parking garage, and I just hear all this cheering and commotion. I'm like, what's going on? And you're saying there's smoke and stuff. So I run over there to check it out. And I had gotten cut from my shift. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just go see the soccer game. And
I had to go watch a soccer game, right?
Yeah. Man. And so I guess it's kind of perfect too, because you have, the rec is there. There's a bunch of like outer line kind of like administrative buildings too. But then you also have like the dorms and stuff too that a lot of people will see, or like people even like see like from the parking garage too. I feel like they're honking and stuff. So it's a pretty fun
Yeah,
all
great,
around.
great location, right in the middle, and just a lot of people that surround that area and walk by there every day. So it's great when we have a game.
For sure.
So what can you tell us about, speaking of games, what can you tell us about this season for you, Coach?
One thing I can say is we've been really good at home, much better at home than we've been on the road. We have a pretty brutal conference to where we happen to be on the road for like 5 straight weekends in a row. We just got back at like 12:30 this morning, 1 o'clock this morning. I can't even remember, but usually we're traveling all day Sunday to get back because we have a Sunday afternoon game. We've been on 4 flights. But yeah, being at home is a gift, and we always enjoy when we get to be at home.
It's brutal.
Yeah, you're
Like you
probably
were
looking
you're
at
playing like every other day for like 2 weeks, I think. Like it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, yeah. It's part of it. It's a grind for sure. It'd be nice to have a kind of an off week. We have worked in single game weekends, which definitely help. But sometimes you need like football had this last weekend off, and they're going to come back, ready to jump on Troy because they're going to be fresh and energized. And yeah, it's amazing what that can do, and not just for the players, but for the staff as well. I mean, it's a long grind. So sometimes you just need a day to relax or to recover.
and not talk to a podcast.
It's all good.
No, I did not. I didn't realize you guys got home so late last night. And I can tell you that that's not a fun deal. But when you look at the rest of the conference realignment, you hope at some point Texas State gets a Texas neighbor in the Sun Belt. Like right now, I mean, every game we're the furthest west school, so every game has to be like a long road trip.
Our closest trip, and you may know this, but Louisiana Lafayette's a 6-hour drive. That's as close as it gets. Any other game, we're either on a plane or we're on a 8 to 10 hour bus ride.
So what can you tell us about the division this season in the West? Because it seems like there's every once in a while the East will be really good and the West is kind of like in the back, and then sometimes the West is really good and the East is in the back. I look at it this year and it feels like across the board, both super competitive divisions in the Sun Belt.
Without question, South Alabama in women's soccer has been the perennial dominating team, and they just clinched the regular season title. We just played them yesterday, and they're legit. I mean, they're as good as, I spent a lot of years in the SEC. They're as good as any SEC team, any team in the Big 12. And yeah, they showed why. So the East, with the addition of Old Dominion and James Madison, have made everyone's lives a little more difficult in women's soccer. And I think even in all sports, JMU is at the top. I think their preseason pick to win men's basketball, women's basketball. They're at the top of football. I mean, they're just good. And we played at JMU. That was one of those, like, we spent 3 days to play one game. We left early Thursday morning. We played them on a Friday night. We get back late Saturday just to play that one game. But their facilities are amazing, and I'm not here to tout them, but they have a pretty strong east side of the conference as well. So
no, JMU when JMU got added, I remember talking to people being like, we just invited the biggest bully on the block, like, to hang out with us and play marbles. Like they're really good at the FCS level, and when they had a couple of, I think, sports that were already FBS or Division I playing in larger conferences and stuff, but to add him to the Sun Belt has been a real wrinkle. So South Alabama, I've told all of our coaches, regular season titles, they're fine, but we play for championships and tournaments, and that's what matters at the end of the day. So what's the game plan? What's the feeling going into the Sun Belt tournament?
Well, you're right, because the tournament champ gets the automatic bid to the NCAA, so that's certainly more important. We feel good. We got Southern Miss coming up on Thursday night. It's going to be a really good game. We've already clinched a spot in the tournament, so takes a little bit of pressure off the game. But it's senior night. We're at home, where we usually play really well. So I think it'll be an exciting atmosphere. And we already know we're playing on Monday in the tournament. It's just a matter of seeding and who we face. So looking forward to another opportunity to have some fun down in Foley, Alabama.
Yeah, probably the only fun thing to do over there. Do you know what your seeding is, or so you said you don't, but like, do you have an idea, like second seed, third seed?
Uh, it's not that high. It'll be 7, 8, or 9. It looks
Okay,
like. So yeah,
but just to clinch is important. Like you said, it takes a little bit of
it's.
pressure off of you.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. So in women's soccer, 14 teams in the conference, top 10 make the tournament. So there will be 4 teams left at home, and the good news is we'll be going to the tournament. So
How do you feel about momentum? I'm a big momentum believer. That like if you got the right momentum, things can like kind of fall your way and break your way. You feel like you got momentum on your side here?
certainly we do, and I think we can gain some valuable momentum on Thursday night. Like I said,
Mhm.
we usually do really well at home. And I mean, momentum, when you win and you're having some success, it builds confidence. And when you're confident, it's contagious, and you are more likely to give better effort and win the next game. So even though we dropped the game against South Alabama, we played really well against the number 1 team in the conference. And so I think we can still take a little bit of momentum from that heading into Thursday, because we're not too far removed from knocking off Old Dominion at home. They're a team that they were leading the nation in goals against average. They had only given up 4 goals all year, never a multiple goal game, and we scored 2 on them in the last 5 minutes, the game winner. So that was a big win. So we'll certainly remember that going into this Thursday.
Just kind of a big mental dub too, if you kind of scary the East is too.
Yeah, we entered these last 3 games against the 3 best teams in the conference in James Madison, Old Dominion, South Alabama. And I mean, there's most teams this conference could go 0-3 in those 3 games, and we had a win, a loss, and a draw. And so getting 4 points out of those 3 games, I think just about anyone would take that. So, and especially 2 of them were on the road. So it was a big stretch for us.
I was just going to say, with a fairly young squad too, right? Like 10 freshmen, 1 redshirt freshman, 6 sophomores, 6 juniors, 5 seniors, and 1 graduate. Pretty good. I mean, he's not like, I mean, all these women have played soccer their whole lives, but now at this level.
Yeah. No, it's a pretty young group. We'll return most starters for next year. We got a freshman in goal that's doing very well. We have a freshman starting in our midfield, plays for El Salvador in the national team, the full national team. That's been very good this year, and then a handful of sophomores, and then we will have some new kids coming in. So I think we're looking to continue to strengthen this team. I always feel like we'll be a little better each time out. So
That's half the battle, I guess. Just be a little bit better, incrementally better. Tell
yeah,
us
of
some player
course.
stories. Tell us some player stories from the season. Give us, because for people who weren't locked in on Texas State women's soccer, who are going to tune in for the tournament, who are going to come to this final home game on Thursday night, the senior night, what are some things from this season that you're going to remember, you're going to take away, put in the scrapbook?
Well, I think the big things to remember are like the big wins, which started with the University of Houston. So that's a Big 12 school. We played at Houston, so once again, always tough to play on the road. They're one of the nation's leading teams in goals scored. They were undefeated. I think they were 6-0-1 when we played them. And we went there and beat them 1-0. So it was what you would call a signature win on the road against a Big 12 team. We shut them out. They're one of the nation's leading scorers. We shut them out. And so that was a huge win, and certainly a memorable one. And then, I just talked about Old Dominion. That was a very big win. And, soccer is one of those sports, as like nobody likes ties, but there are in soccer good ties and bad ties. And going on the road at JMU, one of the best teams in the conference, and shutting them out in a 0-0 draw was actually a pretty solid result. But player stories, I mentioned Victoria. I think that's a pretty unique story. She's a freshman from El Salvador, and she was captain of her U20 national team, and she actually is on the full national team and starts on the full national team. So she missed, she's a key player for us, and she missed 3 games. She missed our first 3 conference games. So that was tough without her. And she's actually flying today back to El Salvador. So she's going to miss our game on Thursday night, so you won't see her. But I think kind of a unique story is, we have a freshman starting for us in goal, and we have a quality goalkeeper group, but my goalkeeper coach, Nathan Stocky's done a really good job coaching them. We have 4 quality keepers, and it was a race through preseason. And, the freshman took the lead. And, there was a time where she led the nation in goals against average, and she's been solid, has a handful of shutouts. She was a big part of our win against Old Dominion with 6 or 7 saves. And so I think that's a pretty cool story, because it's not very often a freshman will come in and start, especially in goal. It's like, a true freshman quarterback in football starting. It just doesn't happen very often.
Well, and they don't have that experience too. We talked about the experience playing one of the better conferences in women's soccer, right? I imagine the Sun Belt probably would be in that conversation. So to not play at that level, potentially, to now come in and play as well as she has is impressive. Yeah, man, that's the El Salvador thing is just really catch me, because I remember reading about this earlier in the season. But to say that, okay, yeah, she's going to fly down today and then she's going to come back for the. Yeah. You're tired, I'm tired, but she must be beat, because that's a lot of flight. That's a lot of travel.
I want to say too, Coach, she's the first Bobcat to play on a national team, right? I could be wrong. I don't want to say if I'm wrong or
not. That is possible, yeah. Well, we actually last year we had a player named Juana Plata who played at Lamar University for us, and she came as a grad student, so she only had 1 year, but she's also starts on the full national team for El Salvador. So Victoria might be the second.
So my guy is just like, you talk about recruiting hotbeds. You just got El Salvador on lock. You're like, all right, that's my recruiting hotbed.
It could be.
Well, if you talk about the international scene, right? You got a player from El Salvador, France, Spain, Canada, Ghana. Like, what does your recruiting look like? Like,
I feel that our job is to find the best players we can, and we always look in Texas first. It only makes sense. But if it's California, Colorado, Mexico, Spain, we'll look all worldwide to try to find the best players we can.
Steve Holeman's worldwide. Nice.
No kidding. I love that.
Worldwide.
I got to. So then that leads me to 2 questions, because I've been thinking about this when we talk about the shutouts. There's coaches who are like defensive coaches that they say, okay, we're going to win games defensively. And, if we're going to score some goal or score a goal a game, that'll be enough for us to win. Then there's some coaches who are full pressed. You're like, hey, if our defense is whatever, so league average, doesn't matter, because we're going to take a ton of shots on goal. Where are you? What type of coach would you say you are?
Offense.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of ironically, we press for most of the games this year. We have high press teams, and there's not a lot of teams that high press like us, and there's not a lot of teams that press as well as we do, and we've caused a lot of havoc on teams. So our defense starts with our forwards, and most teams aren't willing to do the work, but we feel like we have the athleticism and the depth to high press teams, and it can be tough to break us down, but. Yeah, so I would say we're certainly more aggressive. When I was at Lamar University, we had the same approach. In 2019, we were I think second or third in the nation in goals scored, behind like Stanford, but we broke all kinds of records. But we would win games 6-4, 5-3. We would put everything into our attack. So we're not scoring as many goals as I did like 4 years ago, but we certainly aren't afraid to step out and attack.
It's year 2. You just got to keep telling people that. Like, don't worry.
Yeah.
It's
only year 2.
Will be coming. Yeah. No, I love that. I think that it's, you talk about ironically, that did make me chuckle, being like, yeah, no, we're an offensive team, but we pitched a couple shutouts. We're okay.
Yeah, we're getting there, and that's a good point, because when I sit back, every coach wants to win right away, but it is year 2, and it does take time. And we look at South Alabama and all the success they've had. He's been there 8 or 9 years, and it didn't happen in a day. And at Old Dominion, she's been there, same thing, 8 or 9 years. The coaches that are new in this conference haven't had a ton of success yet, but same thing with James Madison. Like, they're one of the top teams, and they've been there a long time. So we will get there. We just have to be patient, but no coach wants to be patient.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Neither do fans.
we call this a John Mulaney, because we're going to wrap this back up here, because you mentioned taking over as a 25-year-old coach to start your career. Have you become more patient as time has gone on, or do you still have that like youthful impatience, I call it? Because I'm impatient about my career. I'm impatient about a lot of shit. Jacob's the same way. Like, do you feel like you
I
have
think
become
Zimmel's a little bit more impatient than I am, but yeah.
I'm not yelling at people in the grocery store, but I am yelling at myself for like, we need to achieve things a little bit quicker here. Do you feel like you still have that youthful impatience, or do you, like, your career's gone, become more patient with like the just the process?
I am definitely more patient. When I was younger, I mean, I was type A. I was all out. I was a workaholic. But then what happens is, I've gotten married. I have kids, and you put things in perspective. And so you have to find a balance. And I wanted to do everything myself. So you have to find good quality assistant coaches. You have to be willing to delegate. You have to be willing to trust other people to do a good job and do a phenomenal work for you and the program. And I have that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely more patient. I think, if you interviewed a player from 20 years ago and a player from 2 years ago, they'd probably tell you different things. But I think in both ways, I think it's been positive. I've always, cared about my players and had good relationships. And I think that's the foundation for building a really good, strong program. And so, yeah, I would definitely say I'm more patient now than I once was.
Also touch on family, coach, like the pride of Lumberton. Like coaching your kid.
Yeah, good point. I guess that's kind of a player story in and of itself. But yeah, it's been great. I have my daughter on the field. People always ask me like, how is that relationship? And it's great. Sometimes, when she's on the field, she's a player and I'm a coach. And there'll be times she comes to practice and like we say hi and that's it. But she kind of goes on. So it's not like, I talk to her for 15 minutes before or after every practice. She's another player on the team, and have to have that balance of, being a dad and being a coach. But, it's funny story. One time I made a coaching point to her and she said, "Yes, sir," which she doesn't say at home. And I was like, "Wait, did you just say yes, sir?" She almost like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did."
That's funny.
Yeah. So it was funny. She was respecting me as a coach, but not that she doesn't respect me as a dad, but it's just not one of the things that she's used to doing. Like if we're at home.
It sounds like some healthy boundaries, maybe, as long as she's not like threatening to jump in the portal, every other day or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, it's been good. It's been really a great experience, having the opportunity to kind of see her every day and being able to coach her. So
look at that. We learned boundaries and patience on the podcast. What a talk about learning things. This is great.
I want to ask you something else too, kind of along those same lines, but definitely not really. Like, are you sick of the whole Ted Lasso thing, or do you embrace that? Because now I'm seeing like Ted Lasso at the World or the ALCS or the NLDS. Like I think it's become a little too much, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're a soccer guy, so that's your world.
Well, yeah, true. So I actually watched the first two seasons and then I stopped. So I've lost touch a little bit with the Ted Lasso movement. I just need to go back when I have time and kind of catch up. But I think it's the first couple episodes I saw were very entertaining. So I think it's kind of that good mix of the feel good and the people learning about how things work on the international stage and soccer, and so it's been fun.
He says when he has more time, like he's not doing 15-hour road trips every weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We were asking GJ Kinney if he had watched The Bear yet, and he was like, "No, of course not. What time do I have to watch The Bear?" So totally.
It's like, when am I watching that? Yeah. You do have a challenge. I mean, when we're on the road, which we've been on the road a lot. I mean, you're sitting there with your iPad, and you're like, I could watch a movie, or I could watch video and break down film. So. Yeah, you got to
delegation, coach. Delegation.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you for coming on with us, man. This was a lot of fun. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we'll talk to you after you win the tournament.
That sounds good. Hope so.
Squaring Around is also proud to be brought to you by Home Field Athletics. Home Field is your one-stop shop for everything college football. They got teams from all over the damn country. Not Texas State, though. So if you're a Minnesota Gopher fan, go on Home Field. Use code SQUARE at checkout for 15% off. And if you're a returning user, maybe you're just a Home Field addict, you can't get enough, 10% off your order from here on out. Use code SQUARE.
My brother, his birthday is coming up, 21st birthday. He's a proud Fight Nagy. Use code SQUARE. Save a little bit of money.
I had to ask about Ted Lasso, man. I'm kind of getting sick of it. I'll be honest. I didn't want to tell him that because obviously that's his world. But, because like if everything was painted like Jacob color, I would be like, hey, this is amazing. I don't know what everybody's talking about. But every time I think about Jason Sudeikis, I think about that time that he laid in front of Olivia's.
You're gonna say that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Olivia Wilde's car because he didn't want her to leave.
In front of Olivia Wilde's car, and Harry Styles was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. I identify with Sudeikis in a lot of ways. Not that one, but in a lot of ways. I agree with you. The Ted Lasso is a little bit too much. The first season was great. The last two seasons, kind of I get it. But yeah, no, it's the home interview. Good stuff. I'm glad that he kind of was like, yeah, Ted Lasso. I haven't been keeping up with it. I do think that some of these coaches, a little hardo. I don't have time to watch. It's like it's long drives. These are long trips. I get it though. I understand. I'm on.
You're doing your major prep work for this match on the road. I don't think.
I like what he said that he's doing. Like he's going back watching film because whom amongst us has not cut film on a plane before? I've been watching film on a plane before. I know Jacob watches Cowboy film. He's calling Mike McCarthy every other weekend talking about game film. But I've I understand where he's coming from with it. But it was ironic. He said we got to delegate. We got to distribute responsibility. And then he was like, but I have to cut the film, which I get. I think that he just doesn't want to watch Ted Lasso. I would have respected that if he was like, I watched the second season, wasn't very good. I gave up on it. I would have enjoyed that take. But whatever. Either way, it's all good. I don't know.
Maybe we struck a nerve accidentally. He was like, you know what? I could tell they got some new writers in season 2.
The story
it just starts hitting too close to home for him.
You got too woke. I understand.
Too woke. What a crazy success story. We talked to Mac Leftwich a couple weeks ago, right? Youngest crazy offensive mind, the next stage of football, maybe.
Mm-hmm. The future Colton Williams.
Steve Holeman, who starts in the SEC with his own team. Nuts.
I think that he undersold the 25-year-old start because that is insane. That's like such an incredible feat. Because I think about like all of the things that I wanted when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, and I wanted to do X, Y, Z by like 25, 26, 30, right? And I think to myself, like, those goals are so lofty goals that like I would not have been able to achieve them without going to like hitting these different checkpoints. So for him to go from being a player to a GA to a head coach is like, I'm glad he has faith in himself, and I understand the ignorance is bliss part of it. But man, oh man, that's a really impressive thing because the program was good. Like he built a good program.
You think he's kind of sick of like being like, oh, whiz kid? Like, would he rather just be like, oh, this is the great coach? He's been a great coach his whole career. Or I guess like at what point are you like, I'm tired of being labeled like the young, very successful coach. I'd rather just be like the coach that has always been very successful.
There's a really good storyline in a popular Apple TV show called Ted Lasso, where they talk about this. No, I get where he's coming from. No, I understand what you're saying. I think that you got to be like 35, 40 before you can be like, oh no, he's been good since he was in his 20s. Like I think that's like the threshold, the changeover point. I don't know. I think everybody likes to be young. I don't know anybody who's like, in their 30s.
A young guy.
40s. Yeah, I don't know anybody who's in their 30s and 40s who's like, I wish that they wouldn't consider me young anymore. When you're 18, 19, like I remember not wanting people to think I was young. Like to be like, oh, no, I'm not young. But I mean, now I'm like, I'll take it.
The reason I asked that is because you called GJ ugly the first time we talked about him, basically. But like, I think he's right there at that level where he's like, I'd rather just be like successful coach guy.
I didn't call him ugly. I called him tired. I said he was tired.
Pretty much called him ugly. I mean, you can go back to the episode if you want to see it.
He's not ugly. He's not an ugly guy by any means.
Not ugly guy.
He's just tired. I'll tell you what, this bye week, I saw photos of his wife posted.
Another guy who looks great in a beard, GJ Kinney.
Yeah, GG Kane looks good in a beard. I saw the photos that his wife posted on Instagram, and I'll tell you, this bye week did wonders for him because he looks really relaxed. Really, like it looks like he got some sleep this week.
Yeah. He told me, or he didn't tell me, but he spoke at a press conference and he was like, yeah, I started looking at some film for Troy and had to shut my laptop down. Couldn't do it. So I know he's been thinking. That little genius brain of him and Mac Leftwich and Daniel DePrato and the whole gang coming back.
Do you want to do a quick Troy preview?
Now we can do that. Do you want to just do our own show, you and I? Not right now, but
yeah, later this week. Yeah,
on Wednesday. Yeah, we can just do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Cool. Yeah, great interview with Coach Steve Holeman. Appreciate you joining, man.
Square Talks. Lock in.
We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Better not come any closer.
Thanks for listening. New episodes out every Thursday. Follow the boys on Twitter. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.